Thanks for joining me on Life in Surround. It's time for my blind date. This is when I find a surround album, and before ever hearing it, without knowing a whole lot about it, in this case, I'm going to sit, listen to it, and then shoot an off-the-cuff reaction. Now, I'm going to focus on surround gems, those albums that have a mystique about them, super high reputation, and in this case, this album was mixed by one of my favorite engineers. It has a rating of 9 out of 10 on Quadraphonic Quad, which is really high, and it is reputed to sound even better than another gem mixed by the same gentleman. This took me a long time to find at a reasonable price, so I want to preach once again to make your wish lists on Amazon, make your want list on Discogs.com, save your searches on eBay, and go and manually check. Don't wait for email updates. Go check. I found this album for $30 on Amazon from a third-party seller. Communicated with them to make sure that it was the right version, and then pulled the trigger. So without further ado, let's go meet my date. Here it is. Bryan Ferry, Boys and Girls. Just about ready to go. Mixed by Bob Clearmountain. Mastered by Bob Ludwig. And this is the same mixing engineer friends that brought us Avalon by Roxy Music. And of course, Bryan Ferry is creative genius involved in Roxy Music. So we're going to come over here and power on my Emotiva stack. Bwong. I love that sound. I have an 8-channel amplifier bridged into a quad beast. Powers my KG 5.2s and 5.5s. 5.5s in the front, 5.2s in the rear. And because this is a 5.1 mix, we're going to enlist the services of my Crown D150A. And we're going to crank channel 1 because I have it bridged into a monoblock. So again, Bryan Ferry, Boys and Girls. We're going to crank it, and here we go. Alright, so as promised, here are some off-the-cuff comments. My gut reaction to Boys and Girls by Bryan Ferry, mixed into 5.1 surround by Bob Clearmountain, mastered by Bob Ludwig, and again a production by Rhett Davies, which I think is pretty much the team that brought us Avalon in 5.1. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but that's just if memory serves. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to use some notes so that I kind of cover all of my gut reaction. This has a lot of info packed into the center channel, which is pretty typical for Bob Clearmountain. Drums mainly up front, but percussion often comes out into the surrounds. Guitars can be up front or in the surrounds, even leads, and guitars do some ping-ponging and some moving. Surrounds are the main residents of background vocals, a lot of atmospherics, A lot of keys and, as I said, percussion. Especially supportive elements. It does seem that the main musical elements are going to favor the front, but that's not always the case. There's often very critical musical information in the surrounds. The album features guest guitar appearances by Mark Knopfler and David Gilmour, among others. I couldn't exactly pick out when they were playing. There was a lot to absorb in this record. Wikipedia classifies this album as sophisti-pop, and I think that is pretty fitting. Clocking in at 38:24, this album does not outstay its welcome. It definitely has its lineage from the LP days when you were constrained to right around 40 minutes, and in my opinion, those tend to be the best albums. Bands that utilize that CD length of up to 80 minutes really rarely do themselves any favors by doing so. This album is smooth. It has almost no rough edges. I want to say Stone Woman gets a little bit edgy, where you have a little bit of a tortured guitar. Pretty sick riff, so I'm glad that they cranked up that guitar a little bit. This album has infectious grooves. In fact, I'm going to say 2/3 of the album is pretty groovin'. It has 3 mellow songs. The hit Slave to Love, which even I remember from my childhood, so if I remember it and more or less lived under a rock vis-a-vis pop culture, it was definitely big enough to have gotten my attention. Slave to Love, Windswept, Boys and Girls, mellow. Otherwise, this album is very groovin'. At times, it even rocks out. I want to say it rocks a little harder than Avalon ever does. And you get a nice dance rhythm for Stone Woman. So if I were to compare this album to a date, since this is a blind date, I would say that this album romances you all the way up to Stone Woman, and then you get to party, get your party on, and then the album closer, the namesake Boys and Girls, is your aftercare. You get to snuggle a little bit as the album lets you down gently and returns you to a peaceful mood. Let me see, what more is there to say? Platinum in the UK and gold in the US. This was apparently Mr. Ferry's most popular solo outing. Very enjoyable to me. The title track, which closes the album, is evocative to me of Time by Pink Floyd. So perhaps that was some Gilmour influence there. As I said, he guests on the record. I love this. It is extremely discreet. It's extremely adventurous in terms of the mixing choices. It's hard to pick a surround standout, but if I had to, I would choose Valentine. I think that might be where Mr. Clearmountain had the most fun. Maybe the most parts coming in and out to just naturally, organically work with. But like I said, it's really hard to pick a surround standout. This album is a surround tour de force. It sounds incredible, and it has really great songs. 3 singles, which are, in my opinion, just, gut reaction, probably the catchiest tunes. But none of the songs struck me as falling flat or being an ill fit or, poor songwriting effort. The album's a winner, in my opinion. It's hard to say because of familiarity whether I would compare this favorably to Avalon, but I think they are definitely on a similar tier. So this album gets full marks from me for sonics. Mr. Clearmountain's mix had my floor-standing full range surround system thumping and pumping, and had those tweeters just sparkling crystal clear. And the mix is immaculate, and I think the songs are super strong. So this is a total winner. This is a legit gem of the surround lovers' pursuit. you definitely should try to find this. It took me years to find a copy that wasn't priced in the stratosphere. It can happen. So just keep your eyes peeled, put those searches out online, do some manual searching. Don't rely on alerts because, like, you know, I got to this one first, right? And the next time it could be you. So I hope you've enjoyed this blind date review of Bryan Ferry's Boys and Girls. As always, please like, subscribe, share the video as you deem fit. Leave comments below. I'd love to hear what you think about Boys and Girls, about Avalon, about Bob Clearmountain, Bob Ludwig, anything else covered in this video. Let me know if you think I should try to track down Frantic. And until next time, live life and surround.